Welcome back to Ray Elvis Photos. Hope you had a wonderful New Year's and New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It's always really busy for me personally around the holidays because I got 3 boys with birthdays early in January. 2 with the same birthday, January 2nd, and 1 with the birthday, January 6th. And of course, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, it's very filled with family, which is wonderful. These are left over from New Year's Eve from playing darts down here. I guess you could call this kind of my man cave in a way. But it's my wife's too. We play darts. I was joking around with her that we need to do a live with her versus me, best of 5, so you can watch her kick my butt. She's really good, and sometimes I'm really good, sometimes she's really good, and then sometimes we stink too, right? Well, thank you to all that subscribed this year in 2024 and 2023. To all of y'all leaving me super thanks. I think Ruby sent me a couple super thanks recently as well. I'll see if I can screenshot. I can't remember names at this very second. I apologize, but I do appreciate it. And go visit my other sister channel, Elvis and the Legends. There's going to be a little bit different content over there, a lot more photos, more readings, like I'm reading Anne Margaret's book over there. And some singing, some of the covers I do of Elvis. All right, so Riley Keough. So Lisa was talking about how she had a medical procedure to give a baby up, and it kind of messed up her relationship with Danny Keough. And then she planned her ovulation timing to trap Danny. The last paragraph says, Danny knew he had to marry me. I trapped him. I didn't really mean to, but I did. Then Riley says, my mom subsequently told me every detail of timing her ovulation for that moment in Aruba. And she absolutely meant to trap my dad. Now, the day my dad found out that he was going to be a father, he'd been rehearsing in the disco room. The ship was swaying back and forth, and he was holding the drummer's cymbal to save it from crashing down. Now, off to the right of the disco room, there was a green room, and someone called from there. There's a phone call for you, Danny. This was long before cell phones. And calling a ship was super rare. You had to call a relay point to connect to the boat via wideband radio. Or something like that anyways. Now, when my dad got to the phone, he remembers what the phone looked like. It was white. My mom said, I'm pregnant. And my dad dropped the handset. He was in shock because he never planned to be married or have kids. But something made him go, let's do it. So he quickly recovered, picked up the phone, and simply said, okay. Now, my mom wasn't thrilled. To her, Danny was just a really good-looking wild musician with no job and no real prospects. This wasn't something a parent would want for their kid. Now, this is Lisa talking about Priscilla wasn't thrilled. She told me I needed somebody more distinguished, more established. One day at her house, her latest boyfriend, see, Edwards was out of the picture by then, took Danny down to the tennis court, and when they got back, Danny was pale. Nobody knew what the hell that boyfriend really did. He was always busy having meetings, but nobody ever knew what he was meeting about. He was very Machiavellian. The day at the tennis court, the guy had told Danny that I would throw him out when I was done with him, and he would lose all of his dreams and goals because this thing was so much bigger than him, that I didn't care about him or love him. The boyfriend said that it wasn't love, it was ownership. Who was that? Y'all go investigate. Who was that boyfriend? Nobody knew what he did. Obviously kind of intimidating. It wasn't Marco Garibaldi. We know it wasn't Mike Stone because Mike Stone was before Michael Edwards. Was it perhaps Robert Kardashian? Did Robert play tennis? I think Robert did. There were multiple attempts, this is what Riley Keough says, to get my father away from my mom in order to gain control of her. And the tennis court was the first such attempt. Now, my mom was all emotion. She could feel her way through anything, but she wasn't cerebral. My father is deeply intelligent, and that threatened people. He was a problem because he made it harder to control her. Now, There were attempts to have me aborted, attempts to have him followed. Oh, so this is Riley. I don't know. I don't even know why that wasn't in my brain. That when she trapped Danny, we got Riley out of it. And, and of course, who's in charge of the estate? Not Priscilla, right? Riley. Her father's daughter. Cerebral. Uncontrollable. Alright, so there were attempts to have me aborted, attempts to have him followed, incriminating, but he always came back swinging until it nearly unalived him to protect her. Now, while my dad was on tour, the boyfriend hired PIs to investigate my dad's past and told my mom that what they discovered was so terrible and dark that he couldn't even tell her. So, when my dad got back from the tour, my mom was incredibly distant and cold towards him. And when my dad found out why, he and my mom immediately went to meet with the boyfriend. "You have permission to tell Lisa everything you found out about me," my dad said. But there had been nothing, of course, and the boyfriend mumbled something about a mistake before quickly shuffling out of the room. Who was this guy? Hired PIs. Seems to be potentially in the law field, right? Sorry, y'all. Long days, long nights. Getting ready to take one of my sons out for the birthday. I was petrified at this point. This is Lisa. It felt like me and Danny were against everybody. But I stayed pregnant and we got married at the Celebrity Center with just my mom and a minister and a few close friends in attendance. About 6 months later, we had a big wedding reception at the Bel Air Country Club. I wore a white dress for my family and friends so everybody could feel a part of it. Of course, I was very pregnant by then. I was struggling with baby weight and getting nailed in the press for it. Back then, they called you fat when you were pregnant. I had so many paparazzi following me, so much attention on me being pregnant. You see, I just couldn't bear it. I was being harassed constantly. For the first time, I was getting into car chases, driving crazily, trying to get rid of them, just to go to the store. It's like shades of Princess Diana. I'm glad they made some laws about the paparazzi. But at the same time, it sucks. When you're famous, and she didn't ask to be famous, but when you're famous, you better get used to it. You better not get in a car crash to avoid a photo. Wear a mask. Wear a disguise. Drive the speed limit. You can always put some fingers or one finger up to the window while you're wearing a mask. Masked person flips me off. We think it was Lisa Marie. Well, Danny and I got our first house. A regular house in a valley. We were preparing to have our baby, but the pressure was probably the worst I'd ever known. The police helped us get in and out of the hospital, and that was also stressful, trying to deliver a child and having to post security and police officers on the floor, with the paparazzi trying to get in and the police trying to get us out, like when they try to get the president out of a building. Then we switched to Riley. The day I was born, my parents played a trick on the paparazzi who'd been camped out at our small house in Tarzana, right on the street. We didn't have any gate security or anything back then. See, my dad had a friend who lived on a sunny cove, a little cul-de-sac off Mulholland Drive in the Hollywood Hills. My dad knew when the pops were going to be following them to the hospital, so he alerted his friend when my mom went into labor and they drove up to the end of Sunny Cove, the paparazzi in tow. The friend then brought his car out and blocked the street, and my parents made their escape. My mom and dad had gone to Lamaze classes. They gave them a focal pyramid. It's their go-to move, and you're supposed to put it up where the woman can focus on it. Well, when she went into labor with me, my mom was screaming in pain, but decided not to do the epidural at first. My dad was trying to help, telling her to focus on the pyramid. "F the pyramid, and F you," she screamed. My parents named me Riley, but couldn't think of a middle name. Priscilla's mother, Ann, also known as Nana, suggested I be named after my dad. My parents had no other idea, so they left it up to the hospital. What? And someone there thought Danielle sounded better before Riley. So that's what my government name is, Danielle Riley Keough. What in the world? The hospital named her? Danielle Riley Keough. Left it up to the hospital. Wow. I'm flabbergasted. I'm in shock. I mean, what? In a way, Danielle was named by the world, right? Danielle Riley Keough. I guess because of the whole Danny, right? My parents had no other idea, so they left it up to the hospital, and someone there thought Danielle sounded better before Riley. So that's why my government name is Danielle Riley Keough. Now, not long after I was born, photographers came into the room and took a picture. There was pressure on my mom to get a photo of me out into the world so that the press would stop following us. That photo was worth $300,000, which in the 80s was an even more gigantic amount of money, the equivalent to about $1 million now. It appeared on the cover of People magazine with the tagline, Elvis's first grandchild. Here she is. And then here's Lisa. And then I had a crash course in being a mom. I was married at 20, a mother at 21, similar to my own mother. But when Riley was born, everybody was happy. She was such a special beacon, a universal spirit, a light in this universe, and I think I was a vessel, serving another purpose. Riley was mine, but she was for everyone else too. I fell in love with being a mom. I realized that I'd been there and I was called to care for something else. Being a mom was everything to me, and Riley was the most precious gem. See, I was going to do whatever I could possible to protect and raise her. That thing where you either do what your parents did or you do the exact opposite of what was done to you? Lisa said, I did the opposite. She did the opposite of what was done to her. The opposite of how she was raised by Prissy Pants. Priscilla Bobblehead. Right? Is that what we call her? Danny got into a band called 10-Inch Men and started playing gigs around town. Well, I developed a bit of a crush on the lead singer. The guy had serious lead singer syndrome, and it became an issue in our marriage. Drunk one night, the singer said to me, you know, if it weren't for Danny, I think you and I would be perfect together. Well, I told Danny what he'd said. I was always very honest with him. But it was so hard because Danny would be on stage and I'd be watching the lead singer. It made Danny absolutely crazy. And it broke up the band. Danny started doing some vegetables. You know how you put, I guess I can say the word now because it's mushrooms. Also another plant, like Willie Nelson does. And it was causing huge fights between us because I had become totally anti-substance by that point. But mostly we had gotten our stuff together, you know? We moved into a house on Mountain Gate above the 405. We were just like a married, normal couple. We were having parties and barbecues with my family. All right, so here's Riley. Now here we three are living above the 405 in LA. The year is 1991. Jacko ran away. Well, that's my first memory. My dad is running. My mom is running. I'm in her arms and she's shouting over and over, Jacko ran away. Jacko ran away. And I thought by saying it, it might not be true. She's very upset. We're running down our street. See, usually I could hear the cars in the 405 freeway down in the canyon. But today all I hear is my mother shouting, Jacko ran away. Jacko ran away. Jacko was our pug. They named him after Jacko Pastorius. That's the bass player that's one of the heroes of Danny Keough. And one of the heroes of my old buddy, Travis Armstrong, that played bass for me. Back when I was 18-ish. My dad once met the legendary Jacko at Stanley Clark's house On Stanley's birthday, Jacko had shown up in a late model Mercedes. He wasn't yet homeless, not yet completely lost to the substance abuse. He had already made those classic albums with Joni Mitchell and Weather Report. See, my dad was 16 then, meeting his idol. This is obviously Riley. Now he's 10 years older and chasing a different Jacko down the street. Well, we never did find Jacko. Maybe a neighbor took him, or maybe a coyote. My parents weren't very responsible back then, but they loved me so much, and I never doubted that, ever. That was what my mom had felt from Elvis. That's what she wanted me to feel. But the lead singer flirtation was incredibly hard on my dad because his two zones, the family and the band, had been compromised. After one tour, my dad came back and said that he had slightly hooked up with a set of twins while he'd been away. He didn't actually fully hook up with them. He was proud of that. It was only kissing and sexy dancing, but he told my mom. She threw a dish, like a frisbee, across the kitchen at his head. Many years later, they discussed it in front of me, and this is how it went. Lisa said, 2 of them? I thought it was 1. Danny said, maybe it's a different incident. Lisa said, I didn't know about any twins. And Danny said, they weren't twins actually, they were 2 friends. And then Lisa said, oh, 2 friends. Well, pretty soon we had moved to that house. Pretty soon after we'd moved to the house, my parents started to get unaliving threats. There was one guy in particular, a guy from the South. My dad said he had no teeth and was 7 feet tall, who was writing letters saying he was coming to get me because apparently I was his daughter. I'm gonna unalive Danny and get my child back, he wrote from the depths of Arkansas. My dad sent me and my mom to Hawaii and sat in the house with a weapon in his lap, waiting for him. My parents had private investigators tracking the man when he got to town, but the authorities could only hold him for a few days in L.A., hence the weapon. Another time, my dad called the cops to report that there was a guy with another metal object you put in your hand and... I don't even know if I can say that without getting in trouble. The filters are real here on Facebook. I'll tell you what, on YouTube, I'm sorry. They came and stomped into the ground, and then he sued my dad. After that, we mostly lived in gated communities because we had to. Yeah, I know you. I mean, I don't even know why. Heck, Priscilla was making so much money back then. She was making money as the head of the estate. She should have put him in a gated community. She should have known that. Well, Lisa said, I love being a mom so much that I wanted another child. And I wanted a boy so badly. My mom had given me advice on how to have a boy or girl. Basically, she said that boy swimmers get there quicker than girl swimmers. But it dies off faster. So if you want a boy, you have to have a loving relationship just before the start of your ovulation to get the first swimmers only. Well, so just like that, when I planned the trip to get pregnant the first time, I was determined to have a boy this time. And I had to plan it, which meant we only had a certain window. So we had a loving relationship 3 times a day and then stopped because I didn't want to risk the female swimmers getting in there. Now, when I got pregnant, we went to Florida and rented a home there. It was a very easy pregnancy. I was working out a lot of the time and I was in really great shape, Lisa said. I targeted an increase of exactly 26 pounds, which is what I needed to have a healthy baby. And sure enough, I gained exactly 26 pounds. And it was just my belly, nowhere else. Well, when my waters broke, we drove down to Tampa, and I had my son Ben naturally. We lived in Florida for about 1.5 years, and things were great. We were both kind of tamed at that point. And, it felt settled. But then I started taking vocal lessons. See, the career. You know how I talk, in the conversations with Derry, and Derry's like, you need to be famous, you need to make millions of dollars, you need to go be a Elvis impersonator, you need to release this song, release that song, you need to... Fame does nothing but destroy a person. I mean, real true fame. You know, they say there's a comfortable level of living financially. There's too little money, right? There's just enough money where there's not really anything extra. There's enough money to where there's some extra, and then there's too much money. It's the same thing with fame. You know, there's a certain level of fame which is perfectly fine and normal, and I don't want to say normal. It's not damaging. I mean, even here we have psychos that talk about my wife and I on videos. You know, you're going to get that. You're going to get people that are unhinged. Talk about you on Facebook. Talk about you on YouTube. I mean, they're just going to do that. But I can't imagine having 6 million subscribers, 60 million subscribers. I wouldn't want it. You know, there's a certain level of fame that isn't damaging to your family. And I think that's the big thing. You know, it's my family is the most important. I mean, I got thick skin. I can take people that are insulting or whatever they want to do, whatever they want to accuse me of being. But you know, when they start bringing family into it, and y'all don't even know about this so much. I don't talk about it. But it's out, that element is out there, right? And I'm sure you're probably aware of that. Oh, well, I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. I don't think I may put a little reading of Anne Margaret over on the Elvis and the Legends if I got some time. But this is probably going to be the only video today. Tomorrow I'm going to be taping segments with Michael Peterson and segments with Daria Matera. And yeah, just enjoying ourselves in between my work. Before my work, after my work, on my lunch break. I realized yesterday when I don't think I made a video yesterday, that I'd pretty much gone 180 days without any downtime. So 6 months. Now, once again, I'm blessed to be around my family all the time. So it balances it out. It balances out my regular work and my job. I'm a little tired, I'm sorry. Balances out working my job, doing my YouTube, doing my eBay. It balances it out because I've got them around all the time. So it never truly feels like I'm away from them much, which is great for the heart, right? You know? All right, well, love y'all very much. TCB TLC, this is Rare with Photos. I hope you enjoyed this. And tomorrow we'll get back on the bandwagon. I've got recording to do, but I'm going to probably do a couple readings of a few books, 2 or 3 books. Hopefully I can do that tomorrow and kind of get back on the schedule. And like I said, go find me over at Elvis and the Legends as well. There's going to be some other channels that I have in this 2025 year, but not yet. Not immediately. But I will be reading some more of Daria Matera's books on another channel, as well as some other authors that are out there that have talked to me about reviewing their books, reading their books. So, and it's all thanks to you. Really, I mean, you kind of helped me to that a right level of success. That's not too crazy and too big. But enough. I mean, it's pretty amazing that this is the #1 Elvis channel over the last year and a half, by far. Not even close. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you with all my heart. All right, TCB TLC. I'm actually gone this time.